are both large-scale surface mines. Open pit is done for things that are really valuable because it's so expensive to dig the hole. It's got to be metals that have a lot of value or really exceptionally large deposits because it's a really expensive, costly method. There has to be a big payoff down there somewhere. Strip mining is almost exclusively done for coal. And again, this didn't exist until we got into the modern mega large-scale mining operation. Here the issues are groundwater and surface water pollution because remember, when you make a hole in the ground, you've made a funnel that will fill up with rain, and all the stuff that you took out is, of course, hard to cover. Since all of that material had not seen oxygen for millennia, when it comes to the surface, it will oxidize, which means when you add water, you'll get acids. That affects both groundwater and surface water. And of course, those giant piles of dirt are difficult to manage. Did we talk about open pit and strip mining? We're on strip mining? Yeah. I have a single picture to show you of this that might put it in scale for you. And why is it that anything you watch on YouTube gives you sleazy recommendations? I swear it's on my browser history. I swear. Thank you. So we had already talked about open pit mining and the big stuff. This is a strip mine. This is actually one end of a strip mine.
So it's like an open pit mine, actually, why?
Right, it's like a stretched out pit. Imagine that I want page 300 out of this book because page 300 has all the coal. Well, you just peel back the stuff on top, and then you just kind of start cutting away at the pages you're looking for, and that's a strip line. You're following those large sedimentary deposits by attacking them from one side. That's the way that people eat corn. So those machines are just cutting into these layers. You can see that this is sedimentary. Remember that fossil fuels are an accident in sedimentary rock. By the way, you can kind of see in this picture, everything over here is man-made. You can tell because of these ribs that results in pushing the dirt over, then pushing dirt against that, then pushing dirt against that, then pushing dirt against that, and then you start to push your dirt over here, and then over here. So this is just like a really meticulous, gradual process of cutting into a long horizontal seam. So this is a sedimentary process. It's actually pretty promising. Find a lot of this. This is how we get most of our coal. But the one that we have not yet talked about is mountaintop removal. Is that correct? We have talked about this? Talk a little bit about it? I never do that. If you could please look up at the board. It is exactly what you think it is. You use a giant cable that's anchored to the top of the mountain to scrape away all the vegetation. It's pretty amazing the way that you use a wire to cut a ceramic bowl from the spinning wheel, or the way that you use a wire cutter for cheese to cut like strips of cheese. You can just take large industrial cables, anchor them to the top of the mountain, and at the end of the cable, you've got extremely heavy bulldozers that just drive around the mountain. And as they go, they just shear the connections at the ground between all the vegetation and the dirt. So you do a couple of loops, and then you take all the little stuff that was stuck in canyons along the mountain edge, and you've devegetated the mountain. Now, this can be done by literally like a couple of workers in a couple of days. It's shocking how much work can be done by how few people. But that's exactly the point. Less people means less overhead, means less union negotiation, means less bathroom, means less travel, less overhead, less payroll department, less paychecks, less lawsuits, less gender sensitivity training. It's a piece of cake. If you got 2 workers, you can cherry pick them, keep them happy. Less workers is the way that mining is going. Cutaway dictation. Then, this is my favorite part. Insert dynamite and explode. So you take the top of the mountain and you turn it into a big pile of rubble. Take the top of this mountain and turn it into a big pile of rubble. Big pile of rubble. Big pile of rubble. And then you just literally push it off the mountain. Like really, they like you can see time-lapse photos of this, and it's kind of amazing. They make a road that spirals to the top, and then they just push all the dirt off the mountain until they've made it a little lower. And then they start scooping that away, and they push it off until they've made it a little lower. And they push away that layer, and then push away the next layer, and you just go until you've exposed the flat level of coal. And it's engineered so that the dirt will make a level area around your layer of coal. It's awesome. You build a parking lot with piles of coal in the middle. And all you got to do is load the train and sell it. Ta-da. Couple of people, 1 or 2 years, millions of train loads of coal. It's amazing. Watch. You just push all that stuff off the top. And what happens when you push off the top of the mountain? Where does the top of the mountain have to land? The bottom of the mountain. And what's at the bottom of all mountains? Water, rivers. That's what left the mountain, was the water that eroded other stuff away. So you just fill in your canyon with a bunch of dirt, miscellaneous landfill. And check that out. That's like a miner's dream. There's a continuous flat level where you can just drive up and take away this pile of coal, and this pile of coal, and this pile of coal, and that pile of coal. Glory, glory, hallelujah. This has become the most profitable way to get coal. This is sort of the secret of the coal industry. We can now give you cheaper on-demand electricity than ever before if we're not worried about those rivers and the forests that used to be there, if we're not worried about the quality of the water for the people who live downstream. You know, petty concerns aside, this is cheap, readily available, on-demand electricity for the masses. You can just jumpstart the economy. It's free. You just go ahead, take them out. It's all yours. It's really hard to find photographs of this. If you Wikipedia, Google, whatever, you'll probably find the same 30 to 50 pictures, and that's about it. I did this a few years ago, so I actually have a couple of pictures that were apparently not supposed to be shown to the public. And some dude got sued for one of the pictures, but I can't figure out which one it is, so I'm still keeping it on here. But you can imagine it's kind of a big impact. So people are kind of nervous about showing off the evidence. But I've got a few pictures to show you. These are kind of surprising, I think. So please look up at the screen. You might be able to imagine that everywhere that it's flat, and not black, that's the landfill part. And where you see a darker shade, that's the exposed field of coal. Like in this photo, do you guys see all these flat levels of green? That's man-made. That used to be a canyon. And there used to be a river down there. You know there used to be a river because they're still passing through some drainage. You can see the drainage there that spills into these containment ponds. And like right there, that's one of those beautiful flat parking lots of coal. Here's where they already took away a bunch of it. And of course they had to get rid of that dirt, so here's where they dumped it. And of course this is also where they dumped out dirt. You can see where a little bit was exposed here. And I'm assuming that in this, they will get more coal. Here's a part where I guess they're probably still wearing away the mountain. I don't know if this perspective is helpful to you or not. But when I say that this is a total transformation of landscape, I mean, that's a completely new geological reality. This is a man-made mountain range. Yeah. Is that what?
Oh, I just noticed there's a picture of a picture. You didn't see like a reflection.
Oh, this may have been shot from an airplane or helicopter because a lot of these areas are in really remote locations and they'll lock the gate miles away, so you're not allowed to get back there.
But look in the upper left, there's pictures on the wall.
Seems like
It's hanging on a wall somewhere.
okay. I believe you. I don't know. So again, you can see this is obviously going to affect drainage, nothing affects water quality. You know, the water is probably going to find its way down there. That's why there was a river there in the first place, because the banks of the canyon were of a more solid material. So even if you pile it up with dirt, chances are the water's going to percolate through that. Now, I'm going to pick on the former president, and I think I've told you before that my personal political bias is obvious. But that aside, I will pick on any president who fails to protect the environment. And among environmentalists, George Bush doesn't get a lot of compliments. Just saying. One of the things he did that was most unpopular in the environmental sense is he reinterpreted the Clean Water Act. Essentially, he said, this is not an impact on surface waters because there's no more surface waters. The basic interpretation of the Clean Water Act that was made by George Bush's EPA was, we don't have the right to regulate this activity because you can't show me on a map where the river is now. Since there's no river, we don't have the right to tell the miner to stop because there's not a river, that's now dirt. And the environmentalist movement basically went, okay, we quit, it's over, it's over. And this was a really frustrating moment for a lot of environmental activists in Appalachia who complained about the loss of aesthetic values, cultural values, recreational values, and not to mention, of course, the ecological values. Like West Virginia alone lost 600 miles of stream and river. That's a pretty small state, in case you didn't know it. 600 miles is actually a lot of stream and river. That's no longer on the map. The new versions of the map don't show rivers anymore. for 600 miles of West Virginia alone.